There is a war going on. It's a spiritual war, a war between truth and deception. Only one thing cuts through all the lies and the opinions of man. It is the truth of an ancient book that we call the Bible. It is God's Word. It is God's sword. In our last study, we spent our entire time dealing with that 14th verse about the Lord himself giving a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. So our last study was completely focused on why Christ was born of a virgin. Why did he come into this world that way? And that was in order that he could be sinless. Because all of our flaws are inherited. We're all sinners. And we're natural born sinners because we inherited sin from a father who inherited from his father. The entire bloodline of humanity is contaminated by sin. And so it was necessary for God to cause supernatural conception in that one virgin, Mary. And it was the fulfillment of what he said he would do. That a virgin did in fact conceive and she bore a son. He was the actual Emmanuel. He was the actual God is with us. He was God with us. So let me remind you again that chapter 7 has a theme, and it continues into chapter 8. It was in the days of King Ahaz, who was the king of Judah. And again, he's a descendant of David, but he's nothing like David. He's a wicked king. But it's the line of David that God said Messiah would come into the world through that is in danger, along with Jerusalem and along with all of Judah. Ahaz is afraid because he hears the news that the northern kingdom of Israel has formed a league with Syria, and they're going to come, they're joined forces, and they're going to invade Judah, and they're going to destroy Jerusalem and depose Ahaz, set up their own king. Their plan is to remove this heir, this member of David's family, Ahaz. So the prophet Isaiah goes and delivers a prophecy that it's not going to happen. Their plan won't stand. God is going to guarantee it. He granted graciously an opportunity for Ahaz to actually receive a sign, but Ahaz is too wicked and too unbelieving. And he refuses to even ask for a sign when he is given a blank check. Remember, Isaiah said, ask the Lord for a sign. Ask it either in the depth or in the height above. Go ahead, make it as big as you want. He could have said something like, I'd like to see the moon split in two or something. As big as you want. I mean, that's the kind of invitation, the kind of opportunity he was given. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I test the Lord. That wasn't him being spiritual, that was him being really unspiritual, really carnal. I don't want to do business with Yahweh. I'm not going to ask. And that led to that prophecy about a virgin conceiving. But the prophecy does go on. Isaiah continues to prophesy. And remember, I pointed out that prophecies often have a near, almost immediate fulfillment and then a distant and ultimate fulfillment. So did this one. Because virgin, in this particular verse, that 14th verse, can also just be young woman, young married woman. It doesn't necessarily mean one who is untouched or never known intimately a man. And so it had an immediate fulfillment, and it was all about what Isaiah prophesies. That those two kingdoms that you're so afraid of, they're going to fall. And those kings, within 65 years, there's not even going to be a northern kingdom. So pick it up from verse 17. Well, maybe we'll go verse 16. For the child, for before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. The Lord shall bring upon thee and upon thy people and upon thy father's house days that have not come, from the days of Ephraim, from the days that Ephraim departed from Judah, even the king of Assyria. And it shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall hiss for the fly. The Lord's going to whistle and call the fly that is in the uttermost part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that's in the land of Assyria. The Lord is going to whistle and summon both the Egyptians and the Assyrians. And they shall come, verse 19 says, and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys and in the holes of the rocks and upon all thorns and upon all bushes. And in the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired, namely, by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet, and shall also consume the beard. The language may be difficult for you to understand as we have it in our English translation, but what is being prophesied here is the Syrian invasion, and when that comes, utter desolation to the land of Israel, and absolute humiliation. Even the dreaded humiliation of hair being removed and beards cut off. That is dreadful. It's like a conqueror taking your manhood, shaving the beard. I know you can't appreciate it in the modern age, but the ancient world, the beard was kind of a big deal. You hung on to it. They didn't sell Schick and Bic, and there wasn't. Can you imagine how difficult in the ancient world it was to be a clean shaven? The only people who were clean shaven were wealthy people. Everybody else had a beard, and this is also. Further back you go, there was a greater appreciation for the distinction between men and women and what God made. That men are to be men, and part of a man reality is facial hair. Conqueror. The Assyrians were particularly brutal conquerors, and they would utterly humiliate by such things. Verse 21, it shall come to pass in that day that a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep, and it shall come to pass for the abundance of milk that they shall give, they shall eat butter. For the butter and honey shall everyone eat that is left in the land. It shall come to pass in that day that every place shall be where there were 1,000 vines, at 1,000 silverlings, it shall be for briars and thorns. With arrows and with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns, and hunting grounds, not farming, not vineyards, not olive groves any longer. And verse 25, and on the hills it shall be digged with the mattocks, there shall not come thither the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen and for the treading of lesser cattle. So the prophecy that Isaiah is delivering is, again, first, it will be the fall of the Syrian king and the fall of the king of the northern empire, sometimes referred to as Ephraim. They're going to fall. But ultimately, the very Assyria that Ahaz is tempted to reach out to, the very Assyria that he's thinking is his solution, instead of looking to the Lord, Ahaz is counting on a deal with the Egyptians and a deal with the Assyrians. And God has just broke the news to him through the prophet Isaiah. It's going to be the Egyptians and the Assyrians that bring desolation to this whole land, ultimately. Now, he's on this. You'll see the chapter change. But again, Isaiah didn't do that. We've added these chapter-verse divisions so we could find our place and get on the same page together. But he continued, moreover, chapter 8, verse 1, the Lord said unto me, take thee a great roll and write in it with a man's pen concerning Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. That's probably not a name that any of you young mothers are going to pick for your baby, but that was Isaiah's son's name. Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. Try that. You got to practice it. Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. It is considered the longest word in the Bible, but it's kind of like Hungarian. If you've ever seen any words in, you ought to visit Hungary, and you'll look for signs. You go, it's like a whole sentence, but it's one word. They do that. And so this is, Maher Shalal Hashbaz, actually means speed to the spoil, hurry to the plunder. So it's like a whole expression. Speed to the spoil, hurry to the plunder. Maher Shalal Hashbaz. I'm sure they did not address the kid that way. I'm sure he was Maher, right? And I took unto me faithful witnesses to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah. And I went to the prophetess. Okay, that's what Isaiah refers to his wife as. He's Isaiah the prophet. She's Mrs. Isaiah the prophetess. But she is a prophetess in that she will bring forth the child. The prophecy is going to come through her. Verse 3, and I went unto the prophetess, and she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Lord unto me, call his name Maher Shalal Hashbaz. And right there, you'd think, Dad would go, really? Do I have to? Call his name Maher Shalal Hashbaz. For before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria, shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. This was a comforting prophecy to a wicked punk of a king, Ahaz. Ahaz, the unbelieving, idolatrous, apostate descendant of David, receives this comforting prophecy. Isaiah delivers it to him. God told me, I have a son. Name him Maher Shalal Hashbaz. And this is why. Because before that child is even old enough to know how to say my father, Damascus, that's the capital of Syria. So again, what Ahaz is frightened about the league between Samaria and Damascus, those two capitals, the kings they represent. They are going to be taken away before the king of Assyria. And it would be fulfilled, and the Assyrians would come and they would take them in that short period of time. The amount of time it takes for conception and then gestation and full term birth, and then the little baby Maher is born, before he comes to the point where he's old enough to say, my father, not just Abba, the old Aramaic. Before he's even old enough to put that expression together, my father. The Assyrians are going to come and take away both these kings you're so afraid of. Verse 5, the Lord spake also unto me, saying, forasmuch as this people refuseth the waters of Shiloah, that go softly, and rejoice in Rezin and Remaliah's son. And therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth upon them the waters of the river, strong and many, even the king of Assyria and all his glory, and he shall come over all his channels and go over all his banks. And he shall pass through Judah and shall overflow and go over and shall reach even to the neck. And the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. What's that all about, right? This is what Isaiah delivers to Ahaz. This is the prophecy. For as much as this people refuseth the waters of Shiloah. What are the waters of Shiloah? That's the water source that all of Jerusalem was dependent upon. That little trickle that bubbles up out of the ground and makes this little stream is the only reason there's even a city there. It was the water source for all of Jerusalem. Later, as you guys all know, by the time of our Lord's ministry, there was a great pool that had been built to retain that, the pool of Siloam. You know it because the Lord did miracles there. He even ordered one blind man to go wash in that pool of Siloam. They've rejected what God has provided. What God has provided, they have contempt for. Instead, they're so impressed with another body of water. That would be the Tigris. This other body of water that they thought was so much cooler, that they were so envious of. so much greater than their little trickle, which happens to be the life-giving source that God provided for them. They're impressed with the Tigris. The Tigris has a great capital city on it, and that is Nineveh. And the Assyrian Empire spreads all the way from the Tigris and way over to the Euphrates. So instead of looking to the Lord, this people, instead of looking to the Lord, are guilty of looking to Assyria, the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrian Empire is actually going to ultimately be their destruction. So, speaking in terms of the contrast of the little trickle that is, the stream, the brook, versus the great Tigris, the Spirit of God moved upon Isaiah to prophesy that this river, which represents Assyria on the Tigris, is going to overflow all its banks and flood all the way up to Jerusalem. In this statement, verse 8, he shall pass through Judah and overflow and go over. He shall reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. Emmanuel, now he's referring back to the prophecy he delivered in the same meeting with Ahaz. Thy land, O Emmanuel. Whose land is it? That question is debated to this day. And the answer to the question is, whose land is it? Is it Israel's? Is it Palestinians? Whose land is it? Well, the fact is, it's Emmanuel's land. It belongs to the Lord. It's the Lord's land. It's his. Verse 9, associate yourselves, O you people, and you should be broken in pieces. And give ear, all of you ye of far countries. Gird yourselves, and you shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and you shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for God is with us. All right. So you can go ahead and prophesy. You can go ahead and, plan, conspire. You can go ahead and meet and form your little alliances and your little leagues. It's not going to change the prophesied and predicted future. Not going to change. So you can do that. But the statement is, it shall not stand, for God is with us. No. Again, God with us, another reference to Emmanuel, God with us, in the same prophecy, the same exchange, the same message delivered to Ahaz. God is with us. Because God is with us, all your counsel is going to fail. This is what's going to happen, because God's with us. He's dealing with us. Verse 11, for the Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say a confederacy. Neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. Ahaz is scared to death of Rezin, scared to death, likewise, of Pekah. These two kings, they're coming, and he's all full of dread. Isaiah said, you know what? God told me, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be afraid of what you're afraid of. I'm not going to be afraid of what this people is afraid of. And he tells him this in verse 13, sanctify the Lord of hosts himself. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. Isn't that the same thing that the Lord Jesus taught when he said, fear not them which can kill your body, and that's all they can do? That's the worst they can do? No, the only one worth fearing is the one who has the power to cast both body and soul into hell. Fear him. He's the only one who's worth of our fear. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself. Let him be your fear. Let him be your dread, and he shall be for a sanctuary. Isn't that an amazing statement? Let him be your fear and your dread, and he'll be a sanctuary. He'll be a shelter. He shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. To both the houses of Israel. To both the houses of Israel. To the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. He shall be a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. for a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. A stone of stumbling, a rock of offense, a snare. Do you know the apostles used those expressions? The apostle Peter did. Matter of fact, we'll conclude with that. We'll visit his use of it. I want to remind you of that name again, Maher-shalal-hash-baz. Speed to the spoil, hurry to the plunder. The spoke of the coming attack on Syria, Israel and Judah by Assyria. And also remember in our last study, beginning of chapter 7, the name Shir-Jeshub. That's Isaiah's other kid, which means a remnant shall return. Only a remnant shall return, Shir-Jeshub. But this was a prophecy of the restoration of Israel, that God would in fact restore them even after this destruction that was coming from Assyria. This stone, the stone of stumbling, the Apostle Peter speaks of Christ being that, this rock of offense, rock that will cause confusion. Verse 15, and many among them shall stumble and fall and shall be broken and be snared and taken. Bind up the testimony. Seal the law among my disciples, and I will wait upon the Lord that hideth his face from the house of Jacob. I will look for him. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth in Mount Zion. That Isaiah said. Isaiah said that. Shir-Jeshub, Maher-shalal-hash-baz. Try it. He said, I, behold, here I am. Me and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and wonders in Israel. You know what's really truly amazing, you guys? We read that excerpt from Hebrews chapter 2, and it was being attributed to Christ himself. I, behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me. That is, in Hebrews chapter 2, it is the words of Isaiah are attributed to same Christ who's not ashamed to call us his brethren. Same Jesus Christ who's not ashamed to own us as family would say, as Isaiah did, behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and for wonders. You, all of you, you and I are an undeniable sign. Something happened to you. Something happened to me. Something happened to us. We were altered. A conversion is a reality. A conversion is not something that can just be ignored. And it doesn't just happen. Conversion of somebody like Saul of Tarsus to become the Apostle Paul. That, the Christian, the altered life, the changed life. Do you guys understand what I'm saying to you? The changed life is a sign. Maybe you were affected. I don't know if you've witnessed it. I don't know if you have. Maybe you should take note. The people who were once one thing became another thing. And that doesn't happen anywhere else. All the conversions we witness, the conversions that we have been able to witness here as a church family, the changes. You didn't get to witness mine. I was an old man by the time most of you guys came around. I do remember people telling me that they marveled. In fact, there's one lady who comes here, and I see her on Sunday morning, and she and I go all the way back to the same high school and that period of time. I remember her brother and her sister-in-law who had seen me in school and my countenance and my posture revealed just what a messed up, tormented kid I was. Something happened, something drastic happened. The work of the Lord did. Back in Pentecostal assembly, back in the 70s when I was just a teen. It's not like I just got saved, but I got changed. I had been saved, but changed. And the change caused, I remember the day that her brother Peter and his wife Renee, and I remember them from Herman High School, caught me in the lobby and just talked about it. And I remember Renee being really more outspoken, really emotional about the change that God himself, that the Holy Spirit had produced in my personality, which I guess was most visible in my countenance. My posture even, I'm telling you guys, you can't appreciate it. I was a torn up, a tormented soul. If you ever saw a kid that was weird, that didn't like make eye contact with people and just scowled all the time, weird kid, his head hung, the kid was so depressed, he was so bitter and so tormented internally that it wasn't a way to hide it. And the Lord, in his calling and his filling and his word, produced this change. People witnessed. Signs and wonders. Your life, a sign and a wonder. Especially if you were on course, especially if there was a trajectory for you. If there was a trajectory that you were on, and everybody could see you're on your way to early death, if everybody could see that you were on your way to incarceration or whatever. I'm not a, school guy, stick around school, but I know about school stuff. And I understand that had I stayed in school, that they got these little silly, stupid things that they do about, voting who's the prettiest in your class, or who's the most popular, or who's most likely to succeed. Always felt bad for whoever gets picked for that. I can assure you, I, like many of you, were not picked to be most likely to succeed. If anybody, they didn't, the sad thing is most of the people I went to school didn't even know I existed. I started running into people. And I go, I was in your class. I don't remember you. It's not like this is LA with thousands. I'm in our high school. I'm talking about Herman. I've run into people, I'm not kidding you, people I was in school with all the way through middle school. At the Bangor Fair, I remember one lady I was in your class. Nope, sorry, don't remember you. Wow. Made quite an impression. So not only not voted most likely to succeed, I didn't exist. There was a trajectory that some of us were on, and that trajectory got altered. And we did not become what they thought. That's a sign, that's a wonder. It's something that people ignore a lot, something that we try to make much of. Oh, we in a few weeks, we will fill this house and we'll spend the whole of a Saturday just boasting of what Christ has done. And you'll see, actually beginning this Sunday, just some of the slideshows as we promote the Cure Conference, as we put the faces up, the faces of people that were enslaved. They were involved in a life of crime and self-destruction, and now there they are, their faces, married, happy, clothed, and in their right mind, with children. And it's gonna be fun. Pray for Mike; he's working on all that. You got to put all that together. But that we love to boast of what Christ can do and what He has done. There's a number of conversions that are every bit as extreme as Saul of Tarsus' conversion, or the demoniac. That guy, don't have his name. Remember that guy, that demoniac that was naked? Had a legion of demons in him. He was tormented, howling and cutting himself. He's all covered with wounds and covered with scabs and infection. He's living in the tombs. That guy, all skinny, sucked up, naked, and crazy, with all his scars. He goes screaming all naked down the shore when a boat landed on that shore, Gadara. The various reactions from the disciples. You know how it is when you're with your friends, something suddenly unexpected happens and there's a variety of different reactions. One guy runs this way, another guy paralyzes. In analysis paralysis, he can't compute. One guy faints, another guy jumps up. I can only imagine Peter going to jump in front of the Lord because here comes that crazy naked dude. And the naked guy can't even get all the way there before he falls and slides up into home plate, all naked, screaming. We know who you are, Jesus, Son of the Most High God. You know what happens, right? The Lord commands these demons, they're gone. But when the demons leave, they had a request. It was weird. That's the weirdest thing in the Gospels. The demons had a request. You're going to kick us out. Don't send us to the abyss. Don't send us to the pit. Let us have the swine. Let us have the pigs. There's a herd of pigs. Pigs in the promised land. There's a herd of pigs. Let us have the pigs. And the Lord goes, yeah, all right. Yeah, do that. Go. And they go. The demons leave the man and instantly invade the swine. And there's this herd of hundreds, all going completely insane. Demons invading pigs, and the pigs ain't digging it. The pigs, it's weird. It's really weird. What they do is they just rush down to the lake and drown themselves in Galilee. What's up with that? Nobody knows what's up with that. We just know what happened. It's recorded. It would seem to me, this is my theory, that the swine went, oh, I ain't living like this. I'm not doing it. I'm a pig. I'm an animal, and there is no judgment for me. I'm not an eternal being. I'm not living like this. I would rather die, which is a logical move if you're an animal. If you're not an eternal being like a human being is, we will be somewhere, heaven or hell. We don't cease to exist. But a swine goes, no, I'm ceasing. I can honestly picture a whole herd of pigs, and just all of them drowning themselves. Drowning is a painless death. They drown themselves. They're choked in the sea. There they are, just floating. The guys who cared for the pigs, as far as they're concerned, that's the only thing that happened. The pigs were killed. They run into the village and they tell people what happened. Whole village comes running out as day breaks. People are running out there to see all these floating pigs. They see the floating pigs. They see the guy that was the monster, the Freddy Krueger of all of their kids' worst nightmares. They see the guy who's the monster of the whole region. Everybody's scared of him. They hear him howling in the distance. And there he's sitting, clothed, in his right mind. And now they're scared of him? They're more scared of him clothed and in his right mind than they were when he was naked and skinny, rack of ribs, running around, freaked out. Do you understand there are people that are more scared of you clothed and in your right mind? You disturb them, you upset them more than when you were a total meth head. You freak them out more now than when you were their cocaine buddy, sharing poison. I feel like this is so cool. We're the coolest. We're gonna take poison in up through our nose together. That's crazy. People are more scared of you now. You freak them out. The implications to their life. You disturb them. You don't have to say anything. And they'll be going, what are you saying? What are you saying? I'm going to hell? You didn't say nothing about hell. You just said, I got saved. Christ set me free. Don't shove that down my throat. Well, shoving nothing down nobody's throat. They're freaked out. So what happened? That guy, the Lord, they asked the Lord to leave. Like, we like things, okay, so we have our monsters and they're naked and stuff, but we're used to it. Okay, it's our neighborhood. And we've come to accept it. I mean, things were that way. We like our pigs. We like our whole pig economy. We don't like you. Will you just leave? Just leave. How incredibly gracious, how incredibly gentlemanly of the Son of God to go, shalom, and head for the boat. And that guy with all his nasty wounds, all of that, and he's whatever he's got over his shoulders. He goes, no, let me go with you. I'm going with you. And our Lord said, no, you can't. Can you imagine that moment? I'm going with you. Don't. If you're leaving, I'm leaving. They don't want you. They don't want me either. And the Lord said to him, you can't go. You got people you got to go show yourself to. You got people. Go show yourself to your family. Have you guys spent any time thinking about that? I'm telling you, signs and wonders change lives. Have you ever thought about, there's a movie I wish somebody had made where that guy, he shows up, and even from a distance, the family's freaking out because he's coming. And he has to go, just calm down, I'm different. Listen, it's okay, it's okay. He's got siblings with weapons because he's crazy. And I wonder if they could just put them down. They kind of keep an eye on him for a while. Hang on to that blade. And after a while, they realize he's not crazy anymore. The Gospels tell us that he went to the whole 10-city region, the Decapolis, and those are big towns, all 10 towns. He was all over those 10 towns, making Christ famous. And there were people, now you know that there's people going, we heard of that guy, you're not him. And at some point or another, you know he has to disrobe. You got to pull his robe off and just show his upper body. And everybody's horrified at the scars. They're just all healed. They're healed, but they're still there. And they testify to where he's been. They testify to the torment that he lived under. And people are like, you were him? And he's covered everywhere. And you can tell he did it himself. You can tell by the angle of the cuts that they were all self-inflicted by a crazy man, raking with stones his own flesh. Can you imagine meeting that guy and the reactions to him as he tells about the man who came and set him free? He's got stories about them trying to lock him up, but he breaks chains because he's crazy. He doesn't feel pain. He just breaks fetters. Everything I just said, you don't have to imagine. You can experience it. You can live it. You actually can live it. You can and you should tell of your scars. You don't glorify them. You don't glorify the life that once was. You glorify the one who came and altered it, who turned the light on, and his light drove out the darkness. You tell of what he did and how he changed you. You tell him of the hate that you once had. You tell him how he replaced it. You tell him of the guilt and the shame that tormented you. Tell him about your guilt because it was awful. Don't embellish. You don't have to. Don't exaggerate. There's no need. It's bad enough. Your story's bad. But you're a sign and a wonder. And the reason why this 18th verse is quoted in the New Testament in Hebrews chapter 2, as we read earlier, the words are taken by Christ himself. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and wonders. Verse 19, and when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits. This is Isaiah talking to Ahaz. They tell you to go talk to the mediums and unto wizards that peep and that mutter. Should not a people seek unto their God? For the living to the dead? What's the point of inquiring of the dead, anything, on behalf of the living? How are the dead going to help you? to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. And they shall pass through it, hardly bestead and hungry, and it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their God, and look upward. And they shall look unto the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. So ends chapter 8. The prophet Isaiah will continue. He's not done in this message he's going to deliver to King Ahaz, but our study is done for now. Band, please come on back up. Give us something to go out singing. Everybody that looks to the false god instead of to the law and the testimonies, the law and his testimonies, all they're going to find is darkness.
Hey, thanks for listening. We pray that the Word of God will speak to your heart as you meditate on it. If we can help you grow, or if you have any questions, you can visit us at our website at ccbangor.org. Give us a phone call at area code 207-991-9555, or you can shoot us an email at office@ccbangor.org. I'm Jessica Graves Fleming, and on behalf of my dad and Calvary Chapel Central Maine, we wish you grace and peace.